Hey, it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for July 2023. So on July 17th, we have the new moon in Cancer taking place at 24 degrees. It will be taking place, reaching its peak energy at 2:32 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we are all in for a very dramatic shift in circumstance. Why is that? Well, let's unpack it. We have to go back to the new moon in Gemini. That is the lunar cycle that we're currently closing out with the new moon in Cancer, implementing the new energies that we're going to be working with for this new lunar cycle. The new moon in Gemini took us back about a month ago in order for us to debate the pros and cons, the highs and lows, the good and bad of every kind of situation and scenario that we were trying to conjure up for ourselves. We were being propositioned, if you will, with two choices, two decisions, two paths, two directions. We were really trying to figure out whether or not we were prepared, whether or not we were ready to leave some of the old parts of ourselves, of our circumstances behind in order to travel a brand new path, a brand new passion, if you will. Of course, it was all up in the mental plane. Then we had the full moon in Capricorn energy that provided us a huge illumination on where the power struggles were, where it is that we didn't feel like we were in control. We should have been illuminated around that time on what it is that we were no longer in alignment with. Roles, responsibilities, dreams, goals, people, whatever the case may be, there was a large power struggle that got illuminated around that full moon in Capricorn. And of course, that provided us with the pivot point. We were talking about realizing where it is that we're closing the door on the old, where it is that we are going to shift perspective, shift our energy, shift our focus into what it is that we need to build in our lives that is now more in alignment with our higher selves, especially when we're talking about long-term goals. Well, we should have been illuminated over the last couple of weeks, especially since that full moon in Capricorn, on what isn't working, on where we don't feel safe and secure and stable in our lives, on where it is that we're no longer pushing for the same kind of goals and dreams and visions. We should have been illuminated on where it is that we have to stop pouring time and energy into other people until we start pouring that time and energy into ourselves to stabilize ourselves, to get ourselves in a better place. Okay, so then we moved into Cancer season. Cancer season's a water sign, so we're all hella emotional. The depression, the funk is very real. Why is that? Well, because we're closing the door on some very important karmic life lessons that many of us have just been dragging ass trying to learn. We have to consider the fact that, first of all, the water energy is transformative. And it does so by taking us through multiple states of being. It's the only element that can go from a liquid to a gas to a solid and then back again. And when we're in a water season, we tend to go through the same kind of transformative state. We will find ourselves in a happy place. We will find ourselves in a low place. We will find ourselves in the middle of those spaces in order to figure out what it is that we have to let go of, close the door on, walk away from in order to build something new. Now, boundaries are obviously being tested here in this Cancer energy, and we are really realizing where it is that we have to kind of implement and create stronger boundaries in order for us to protect ourselves emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. And when we're getting down to the nitty gritty, we have to kind of pull back from what it is that we've been doing out in the world to get back to the very basics of what it is that we need to feel safe and secure and stable. Okay, so let's unpack it. The moon rules over the Cancer energy. So having a moon event in Cancer energy is a moon on steroids. The moon is our emotions. It's our intuition. It's our unconscious self. This is the spiritual transformation that we are all going through. And what is really kind of kicking the endings and closures, the beginnings and initiations at this particular point in time is that the nodes of the moon are shifting out of the Taurus and Scorpio axis into the Aries and Libran axis just hours within the time that we see this new moon in Cancer peak. That's a big deal. We're closing the door on the last 18 months. We're opening up a door to the next 18 months of karmic life lessons. This is a very pivotal point for change. That's why we've been in the funk. That's why things have been overly heavy, overly weighted, overly depressive, because we are shifting out of one particular life chapter into the other. So we are still very much dealing with the Mars and Venus energy where the nodes are concerned. Of course, with the North Node having been in Taurus energy, the South Node having been in Scorpio energy, Venus was leading us into this empowerment journey, into building up our self-esteem, building up our self-confidence, rearranging our values, our priorities. We were identifying who and what made us happy. And in the process of that, we had a lot of shadow work to do. We had a lot of old pain and old trauma to release. That was the Scorpio energy of the South Node. Well, now Venus and Mars are switching their directions. Mars is now going to lead us into this Aries chapter of empowerment, of rebuilding ourselves, of really leaning into this new egoic identity that we are building. We are being pushed into doing what is right for us first and foremost. This is a time of selfishness. We all need to lean in to do what is right for us instead of doing what we think that other people want us to do. We have to lean into really building ourselves up, building our realms up, building our realities up in order for us to move on to the next chapter, which means that Venus is now in the South Node, and what we have to let go of is the people-pleasing qualities, if you will, of that Libran energy, where we have to stop being the middleman. We have to stop being the compromiser, the negotiator, if you will, in trying to make other people happy when we ourselves are not happy. This is about us putting ourselves back at the top of the list. So although the nodes of the moon are its whole thing on its own, and even if the new moon in Cancer was not in a very close proximity to the node shifting would have an impact on this very first new moon that we are having since the summer solstice, because of course we moved into a brand new chapter of karma with the summer solstice when we entered into Cancer season. This is the first new moon in this particular karmic chapter, and we just have an extra layer of transformation and change really pushing us because of the nodal shift as well. We have to consider the fact that Cancer energy is a cardinal sign. Anytime we're dealing with cardinal signs, there is a dramatic shift in the direction, in the path that we were once walking. Cardinal signs initiate a new season, a new chapter, a new cycle. So again, we have a lot of elements really building up, showing us that there is a very pivotal point where we're leaving the old behind in order to adventure ourselves into the new. So let's talk about the fact that the Cancer energy sits across from the Capricorn energy, and both energies really represent safety, security, and stability in life. The Cancer energy is more domestic in nature. It's our emotional realm, our private lives, our home, our family dynamics. The Capricorn energy wants safety, security, and stability as well, but in our public life, where our career, our reputation is concerned, it's more focused on finances and roles and responsibilities where karma is concerned. We have this new moon in Cancer at 24 degrees. 24 degrees is pretty late in the zodiac wheel, which means that this is serving just as much of an ending as it is a brand new beginning. And the next time we have the new moon in Cancer, we should be seeing the extension, if you will, of some of the things that we are going to be initiating under this new moon in Cancer after we cut the cord, after we detach, after we close the door on some of the things that we've been highlighted to under that full moon in Capricorn that we're no longer willing to pour time and energy into. So the Cancer and Capricorn energy very much also kind of represents the mother versus father energy, the feminine versus masculine energy. And because Cancer really represents the past and ties us to our family, it is the root and the foundation of where it is that we're coming from. The Capricorn energy, although very traditional in a sense as well, is more representative on where it is that we desire to go, because it's more about goals, long-term goals, reaching new levels of success, all of those types of things. So we definitely see where it is that we have been exploring what it is that we're leaving behind in order to orient ourselves to this new potential, this new passion, this new path, this new direction. And for many of us, this starts with the very basics of getting back to what it is that we fundamentally need in our lives to feel safe and secure in our own energy, in our own skin, in our own environment, in our own family dynamics. And of course, the boundaries have been tested in order to show us what it is that needs to be strengthened, what it is that we need to pour more time and energy into building up, so that we're not constantly being rocked by other people, by external forces, by storylines that literally have nothing to do with us. The energy is very strong, very potent. It always is around the cardinal shifts of the sign movement that we're moving into. And again, being in the solstice energy, we are definitely aligning with more of what our heart and soul needs. So download the Moon Guide if you haven't already. In it, you're going to explore the elemental energy profile. We are still very, very dominant in earth energies. The major concentration of change and transformation is needed in our physical realm, where our physical bodies are concerned, where our routines are concerned, relationships, money matters, long-term goals. Those are all very earth-based topics and themes. We do have the support of water. And of course, there's a lot of water in the cosmos right now. We are in a water sign. And so what we get with earth and water is growth. When you water the earth, something will grow. And so what we're kind of realizing right now is we're sitting in the funk of the things that aren't working. We're recognizing what's falling apart and falling away from us in order for us to realize what it is that we want to grow in the place of the things that are no longer going to be part of our physical realm landscape. This is a time where we are needing to stand in our truth, to really honor the deepest part of our emotions, whether they are rational or irrational, doesn't matter at this point. There is a lot of, let's say, pre-existing limiting behaviors, thoughts, ideas, and emotions. They all need to come up. This is the shadow realm of our experience, sitting in the dark phase of the moon, where we have to kind of sit with our thoughts, sit with our feelings, as happy or as unhappy as they may be. We have 2 planets at master numbers under this particular moon event, Jupiter and Uranus. Jupiter's at 11 degrees in Taurus. Uranus is at 22 degrees in Taurus. Jupiter is about growth and expansion. Uranus is about awakening, seeing where it is that we have to create a spontaneous change in order for us to start building a physical realm, a physical reality that aligns with our higher self. The problem, and I say problem very loosely because it's not really a problem at all, it's divinely scripted in order to illuminate to us where it is that we have to be consciously aware of our energy, time, and our actions. But a difficult, let's say, position for some of the planets underneath this particular new moon is that the sun and the moon, who are obviously conjunct, because that's what gives us our new moon, they are directly opposite Pluto, the great transformer himself, who is retrograde in this Capricorn energy. So we have to watch out that we're not kind of falling into a state of fear-driven action. Sometimes when we're on the precipice of change, our natural egoic programming is to say, you know what, screw change, screw growth. I'm just going to kind of paint a beautiful picture of the ugly picture that I'm currently in so that I don't have to change. And if you fall victim to the fear-based narrative and you're making decisions and taking actions out of a fear-based narrative, you are going to be creating an absolute shitstorm for your ego to be living in until your higher self realizes, ooh, I really messed up there. I'm supposed to be building and creating in alignment with my heart and soul. And here I am still allowing my ego to have more power and control over me than my higher self does. So we want to kind of avoid the paranoia, avoid the fear, avoid kind of repeating past patterns and behaviors. We are on the precipice of a great change. And yes, change can be scary, but I invite you to adopt the label of excitement and anticipation over fear and over basically being scared of any kind of movement moving forward that would put you in a situation to have to let go of what has been old, tried, tested, and true. So you'll discover in the moon guide that there are a lot of very positive interactions with the planets underneath this new moon, and just as many not so nice aspects. But of course, we have to understand that the not so nice aspects need to create that conflict and tension in our lives in order for us to realize what we have to let go of, what we have to collapse. So I would very much invite you to not only dive into the moon guide, but to really do the shadow work that is necessary for us to be doing, especially around these pivotal karmic shift times, in order for us to set ourselves up for success instead of setting ourselves up for failure. This is going to be a overly emotional, highly intuitive, super sensitive new moon in Cancer. And I would really invite you to listen to your body, listen to your mental state, listen to your emotion, listen to your spirit, and give yourself whatever it is that you need in order to feel safe and protected and stable while we go through this very, very intense adjustment period.